So my question is, friend, how is your Monday? Because I was, going through my day as I always do, tooling around the internet and trying to look busy. And then, the Twitter popped up and someone said, Elliot Friedman, our dear friend, was on the Jeff Merrick show, as he is, he usually is on Sportsnet 960 A Fan on, I believe 10 to 12 is the time slot for that show. So that's important because, during the show, Elliot went, oh, looks like Toffoli to Calgary is getting close. And saying there's movement I believe his phrasing was it's moving. So when it's moving could mean going from not happening at all to a possibility, or it could mean going from maybe happening to happening actively. And apparently what actually happened was the trade was being finalized and there was a trade call during the radio show. So Elliot works fast because
he said that on the radio.
Yeah, he had
I was in my car.
I was in the trade during the trade call.
My shift started at 10:30 and I was in the car from 10 to, I leave the house at 10, and that's because I plan it, because that's right when the Jeff Merrick show starts. And Freed usually only comes on for 20 so minutes. So I get
it's the first 20 so minutes.
Yes. So you can book on 10 a.m. Mountain Time. It's noon Eastern. You can bank on Freed being there for 20 minutes. So I always get my Freed fix live before I hop into work. Well, that was so exciting because he basically outright said it. And then Elliot, you're the only person in the world that I know keeps their keyboard sound on. So I'm sitting there listening, and all I hear in the background as they're talking is Freed's just click, 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 just like the advertisement when he says the Flames traded Tkachuk and Gaudreau. No, I'm just putting in a food order. You can hear the same clicking in the background as Merrick's talking.
Except instead of being a Sportsnet commercial that gave Flames aneurysms the first time you heard it before you realized it was a joke, it was the Flames making. Yeah, it was the Flames making the trade. And, plenty of people have linked to Tyler Toffoli to the Calgary Flames. When the LA Kings were trading him way back when, they were talking a little bit to the Flames. When he went free agent before he signed with Montreal, the Flames were kicking tires on him. But the Flames, obviously, that was the offseason where they had a lot of irons in the fire, and they signed literally every other Canuck available outside of Troy Stecher. Yeah. That was the year, the Flames' priority at that time was goaltending, and they were trying to figure out, do they want Brody, do they want Tanev, how much they're going to spend. So Brad Treliving had a lot of balls juggling in the air at the 2020 free agency period, and he ended up getting a goaltender, which is hooray for him. But at that point, it seemed like the Flames might have missed out on Tyler Toffoli because he ended up in Montreal. And Montreal has had an interesting couple of years because they went on, for lack of a better term, a run last year. They were one of the weaker teams. I think they were the worst team to make the playoffs in the North Division, but they just got hot at the right time. And Toffoli was one of the big reasons for that. And they ended up going to the Stanley Cup final before bowing out and losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And man, can you imagine how awkward it must be? Two-time Cup champion Blake Coleman welcoming in Tyler Toffoli.
Toffoli?
Yeah,
I don't think there wasn't really any animosity during the series. They are division. They were, but Toffoli never played them regularly in the division because the only full year he spent in Montreal was the North Division year, and then this year, and now he's in Calgary. He just played Columbus back to back. So it's kind of a little precarious thing there, but he never really got a chance to beat.
For those of you who've living under a rock, the trade broke out like this, and I kind of like how this is structured. I think it's a good trade for both sides. The Calgary Flames get Tyler Toffoli for basically 2.5 years. When they traded for him, the Flames had only played 45 games, so they get 37 regular season games of Tyler Toffoli, and then the playoffs, and then 2 more full seasons of Tyler Toffoli.
Another 164.
I think it ends up being something like 201 games for
164 plus 37.
Yeah,
201.
201. My math is right. So 201 games of Tyler Toffoli plus three playoff years at a cap hit of $4.25 million. And the Montreal Canadiens, under new general manager Kent Hughes, they get the rights to Swedish forward Emil Heineman. They get the remaining however many games of Tyler Pitlick. They get a 2022 first round pick that is lottery protected. We'll get to that in a sec. And a 2023 fifth round pick. The lottery protection on the 2022 first is this. Granted, at the time we're recording this, the Flames are in first place and they're top 10 in the league. So barring the way the draft picks work, folks, is basically the 16 teams that don't make the playoffs are put in the lottery. And then you just pick ping pong balls out of a hat. It's actually out of a tumbler. They do it twice. And you can only move up a certain amount now. They changed that rule again. So
if
I think
you can move into, I thought it was you can win, but you can only win X amount of years. They've changed it so many times.
But anyway, so the Flames are a team that, as of this writing, according to the Athletics Download session, has a 99 point whatever chance to make the playoffs. So more likely than not, unless the wheels completely fall off, it ain't going to be a lottery.
Mount Vesuvius level explosion.
As Elliot said, in the event that the Flames decide to forfeit the remainder of their games, if their draft pick is in the top 10 post lottery of the 2022 draft, then Montreal will instead get the 2023 first round pick plus a 2023 fourth rounders compensation. So it's essentially you either get the first and the fifth, or you get a later first, a later fourth, and the fifth. So more likely than not, the wheels aren't going to fall off the Flames. It's lottery protection that's mostly superfluous,
and the Flames can, I believe, I don't know this. I don't know if this is fact. Ryan, you're most likely going to know. If they say the pick's 10 for some reason, I really very much doubt it is. They could still give it to Montreal, right? They could say, yeah, you can still take it.
It depends on what the language was in the trade call.
Yes, so we'll have to see later. I don't think we're going to actually
the phrase top 10 protection means that the Flames can opt to keep it if it's 1 to 10. If it's 11 or later, they don't have a choice. And the way the draft order works, first 16 picks are the playoff team, or the teams that missed the playoffs. The last 16 picks are the teams that made the playoffs.
Reverse lottery.
If you lose in the Stanley Cup, if you win the Stanley Cup, you draft 32nd. Cup losers are 31st. Then the two cup or conference final losers are 20 or 30.
They'll be 29-30.
29-30. And then it goes division winners and then non-division winners in reverse order. So if the Flames are first, second in the Pacific and make the, don't do much else, it's still going to be 24. It'll be like a 25th, 26th, 27th pick. So realistically, long story short, it ain't going to be a particularly good draft pick the Flames give up. It'll be a late pick. It'll be a Jacob Pelche-ish late-ish pick, mid to late 20s. Yeah, like mid to late 20s. So
they're 5 points up on the fourth, and they're 5 points up on Anaheim, who's LA, who's just outside.
I think there's 6. I think right now, I think Edmonton is points wise. Third. Edmonton is the worst non-playoff team right now, or the best non-playoff team, I think.
No, I thought they passed LA. They're all at 55. Like the Ducks are at 55, the Kings are at 55. I think the Oilers are at 55.
We're recording this on Wednesday prior to the Flames game with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. And NHL.com is loading very slowly.
That's a throwback. You went Mighty Ducks, eh?
Of Anaheim. Right now, as of this morning, Edmonton's barely in. So Anaheim's actually the last team. They have 55, and the Flames have 3 games in hand and are 5 points up. So anyway, we're taking the roundabout.
Flames find a win tonight. They're 7 points up.
We're taking the roundabout way, folks. I'm just saying that the lottery pick, cool, good for you. But so the interesting thing is 2 things to me. One, to make the money work, the Flames gave up Tyler Pitlick, who is injured right now. He has not played in about a month. He's not skating either. So Montreal was kind enough to take a player back who, when he plays, he's fine. He's replacement level, slightly below replacement level. He's a veteran body. He's there to make the math work. My read on it is the Flames gave them the 5th round pick to be kind enough to take a player back to make the money work. It's either that or try to talk Montreal into salary retention. And I don't think Montreal wants to retain salary for 3 seasons. So it works for everybody. Montreal gets out from under that deal when the contract expires on July 12th.
And it's not like Pitlick's not a top 6 forward. No, but Pitlick is still a serviceable 4th line depth forward that can play at the NHL level.
He's a serviceable 4th line forward on a team that To be absolutely charitable, I love my Habs fan friends, Rob Murray, up in Fort Mac, where it has so many Habs jerseys. He's a wonderful human being. He's very representative of a whole collection of wonderful Habs fans that I know and love. Their team's terrible this year, and I think they would admit their team they're the worst team in hockey right now, standings wise. And they need right now they're beset with injuries. They just need bodies. And Tyler Pitlick gives you the ability to not throw your kids to the wolves if you don't want to. So you can keep your up and comers in Laval and let them just do their thing. You don't need them to expose them to the tire fire that is the 21-22 Montreal Habitant season. So that I think there's a value there. They also get the player I like, I don't love, but I like, Emil Heineman. He's playing in the Swedish Hockey League with Leksands.
He stalled a bit this year in his development.
A little bit, but
a little bit. He still projects.
Here's some context for everybody. So, you know how Daryl Sutter doesn't throw kids to the wolves because he's an old school coach and he likes leaning on his veterans, which a lot of coaches do because veterans have a body of work you can build up. Sweden basically is an entire league. The SHL is a league full of Daryl Sutter coaches because typically speaking, you bring in kids from your junior team who are 19, 20, 21, and they don't play a ton because you have your established pros and Sweden has relegation. So if your team's bad, you still don't want to play your kids a lot because they might get relegated. So the tendency in the SHL is if you're a young guy, like 20, 21, 22, you're a bottom six guy, a third pairing guy, you're a role player. And for his part, Emil Heineman has been a very effective role player for Leksands. Compared to his peer group, he's one of the more productive under 21 players in the league. So you got to build some context. And does he a point a game player? No. Would you expect him to be given what he's asked to do? No. And, Kent Hughes on Wednesday, came out Wednesday morning and did some media sort of talking about how much they really liked, Emil Heineman, and they asked for Emil Heineman to be included in the trade. And as far as I know, I have no reason to doubt that, but it also feels to a certain extent like he's selling the pick a bit because
Brad did the same thing.
Well, let's be completely honest here. Like if you're Calgary, you're getting the better player in the trade. You're giving up no one of consequence. Tyler Pitlick wasn't even playing. And
he hadn't played the last 10
and the
games.
prospect you gave up was a second rounder you didn't even pick. So if you're the Flame, if you're Daryl Sutter, he was a guy, they acquired Emil Heineman along with a second round pick in this year's draft from Florida in the Sam Bennett trade. Emil Heineman is a good player, but he might be the easiest player among the upper echelon of Flames prospects for them to lose because they've never had him at development camp. They haven't really built that much of a relationship with him yet because he was a guy who just, got added to their organization in a trade. Their scouts didn't pick him. Their GM didn't pick him. They picked him in the trade, and he's a good player. But compare him to, say,
Zach Hyman was who Brad used.
He could be a Zach Hyman type.
Yeah, that's what Brad used when we acquired him for Bennett last year. He's a Zach Hyman-like player.
Yeah, but is he Dustin Wolf? No. Is he is he Jacob Pelche? Is he Connor Zary? Is he?
It could be.
Yeah, I think the Flames have if you're the
that's
Flames,
about where my comparison.
if you're the Flames, you got a guy in Tyler Toffoli who's under contract for 2.5 seasons. Basically, he's cost controlled. He's a right-hand shot, and he's Canadian, and he knows 2/3 of your team basically. So
his best friend plays on the team too, which I just love. By the way,
yeah. Picked him up at the airport.
Lucic was so excited to go pick him up at the airport. It was great.
That photo on his Insta is just pure bro love.
It's just Lucic just sitting there like, it's like my best friend gets to come over for a sleepover, except he gets to stay for 2.5 years.
But yeah, so I think if you're the Flames, you got the best player in the trade. You gave up your first, but it's gonna be a late first anyway. So like your late first is going to help you for a couple of years. You lose a fifth, but you lose a fifth in order to get Pitlick's money out the door. And you don't really give up any of the prospects you really, really like. Granted, I'll tell you, I was told very, very bluntly, the Flames really liked Emil Heineman, and I have no reason to doubt that the Habs really like Emil Heineman. But the Flames did not give up a great prospect. They gave up a good prospect. They didn't give up anyone off their roster who was playing regularly. They gave up a first who wouldn't even be, turning pro for 2 years. And Yeah, like the first round pick in 2022 won't be playing a game of pro until young master Toffoli is done his current contract. So those are the things you have to balance. I mean, I'm a draft guy. You're a draft guy. I don't like it when they give up picks, but at the same time, like they don't have a first.
This was the year to do it, and they got a guy. Brad loves getting a guy with turn. He always did. Especially if you're giving up the first. They got this. I love this trade for both sides, actually. Calgary got the player they needed right now to compete. Montreal just did a run. They just overhauled their front office. They're very clearly going rebuild. They're very, very clear. They got a young center. They want to
clear out money, and they want to clear out like Tyler Toffoli is a really good player, but really good players need roles and they need ice time, and they take up a lot of oxygen. It's like the idea of like we talked about Dylan Dubé in the past. And one of the challenges I think for Dylan Dubé's development long-term is the Flames have and want to keep having 4 guys ahead of him in the rotation. They have a Coleman. They have a Toffoli. They have a Tkachuk. They have a Mangiapane. They have a Gaudreau. So they have 5 guys arguably ahead of Dylan Dubé in the rotation right now. And that's something they're going to have to navigate. But the Flames are a team that thinks they can win right now based on this trade. Like I wrote a column for the site basically saying this is Brad Treliving pushing his chips in the table and anteing up. They seem like they're all in. Montreal is the opposite of that. Montreal has they have a handful of, they have like a 2 and a 4, but it's a different suit. And they have like the poker instruction card somehow in their hand. So
everything must go is basically what's put. Everything UFA must go is now on their headline. And you're going to see Lehkonen go. You're going to see Sherratt go. You might see some other pieces go.
Jeff Petry's going to go.
Petry's going to go.
He did immediate availability when in both official languages, he basically said, make me an offer, boys. So yeah, like if they
said that one might come with retention as well, like the Petry one. But the point is Montreal is looking for futures. Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes want to take the team. It was Marc Bergevin for years. Everything that's left is Marc Bergevin. They're going to take it in a new direction, the way they feel like it. Obviously, Carey Price currently isn't playing. He'd probably up them in the standings a bit. He's out mental health. That's important. If you ever need someone,
I think he also has a knee thing too.
There's that as well.
Carey Price had a lot of stuff.
They're keeping Caulfield. They're keeping Suzuki, and I think that's the 2 pieces up front, and they're keeping Romanov on the back end, and that's like what they're really going with. Maybe Norlinder, keep Norlinder, and then they're going to go.
Like they're tear it down. They're in a position. They're in a position where all things we hope, knock on wood, I already have my hotel booked. Montreal's hosting the draft this year. Yeah. So Montreal's hosting the draft this year, and their team's garbage, like hot garbage.
They got 2 first-round picks, too. They had 12 picks.
They have a lot of picks. They're hosting the draft, and it's an old school market, and there's no better way to retool your team than a draft that you're hosting, and they're going to be the center of attention for a lot of reasons. But I'm fascinated what they're going to do. I think this was the trade both teams needed to make. It's the Flames get ahead of the trade market by 5 weeks. The Habs basically they light up in bright neon. They're open for business sign, and both teams.
And the Flames set the market. The Flames set the market too. Like they got ahead of it. They didn't wait for someone else to overpay for someone, which could have upped the price for Toffoli. They said, we want this guy. They heard LA had interest, and they went, nope, we're going to go get him. We can afford him. The Pitlick inclusion was fantastic. Like pre-trade, you and I, Pike, were messaging, and we were like, is it Dubé? Is it Valimaki? Like, what's going on?
They would have had to send something to make the money work.
Yeah. And so when it was Pitlick, we were both kind of like, well, it made like, hey, Montreal wanted him. And they also Montreal's collecting Pitlicks. They have Rem and they have Rhett.
Yeah, and they got
Rem and Tyler now, so that's also just something really cool that they can advertise to their fans.
They have an abundance. I don't think you're going to advertise to your fans that you have an abundance of Pitlicks, but
I don't think Rhett's anywhere close to actually playing either. Rem and Tyler can play together though. Like they actually are legit NHL level players. Mind you, bottom 6 right now, but Rem, I'm interested in Rem. He was doing really good in Minnesota before they waived him, but